Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to a very special edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And today I am going to be talking about one of the most popular and most celebrated ensembles in music history, and they helped redefine the jazz fusion genre back in the mid-80s to the early 90s, and they're led by one of the greatest and most iconic musicians slash composers slash piano players slash keyboardists that's ever lived. I am talking about, of course, the Chick Corea Elektric Band. Now, the Chick Corea Elektric Band was formed in 1985 as a trio with Chick Corea, John Patitucci and Dave Weckl, and they would have a number of different incarnations and lineup changes in their history, and they would later add Frank Gambale and Eric Marienthal to form what many consider to be the definitive and classic lineup of the Chick Corea Elektric Band. And today I am going to be taking a look at their very impressive catalogue, a total of 7 studio recordings, and I am going to be talking about each album individually, and I'll be choosing which album I think is the best one. So we're going to start with the first album, which was released in 1986, and that is the self-titled album, The Chick Corea Elektric Band. We have Chick Corea on keyboards and synthesizer programming, John Patitucci on electric and acoustic basses, Dave Weckl on drums and electronic drum kit, and we have guest musicians Scott Henderson, who would later on become a full-time member of the band for a while, and Carlos Rios on guitar as well. A true jazz fusion classic in my opinion, and one that would not only set the tone for the Electric Band's future, but they would also help lay the foundations down for what they were going to be all about. An absolute masterpiece in my opinion, and the Chick Corea Elektric Band are very much like the answer to Return to Forever, but they're a lot more jazzier than RTF. Whereas RTF were very much rock driven, which helped them become very legendary, the Chick Corea Elektric Band, as I said, were a lot more jazzier and a lot more sophisticated and up to date musically, but RTF and the Electric Band are two completely different beasts, but still do the job very, very well. And as you'd expect from a guy like Chick Corea, he always picks out the best musicians to play with him. And if I was ever going to recommend someone to get into the Electric Band's music, there's no better place to start than this album, the self-titled debut album of the band. So all compositions are written and composed by Chick Corea, with the exception of one, which was co-composed by Chick Corea, John Patitucci and Dave Weckl, and a lot of the Electric Band's popular tracks are featured on this album. So we've got Citygate, Rumble, Sidewalk, Cool Weasel Boogie, Got a Match, Electric City, No Zone, King Cockroach, India Town, and 2 bonus tracks, all love Silver Temple. Absolutely love this album. Every track is just excellent from start to finish. For me, the standout tracks I would say are the ones with Scott Henderson, such as King Cockroach, Silver Temple and Citygate, which was only 55 seconds long. Carlos Rios does an excellent job here, but Scott Henderson, the tracks that he's featured on, they're my favourites, and other great tracks such as Got a Match, which is one of the most popular Electric Band tracks ever, and a track that they still played all throughout their history. Electric City, which is very much a very commercial track, but still a lot of fun. You should check out the promotional video for that, it's absolutely hilarious. All Love, which is a trio piece with John Patitucci on acoustic bass, Silver Temple, as I mentioned. It's very hard to choose a standout track. They're all good, but as I said, the standout tracks for me are Got a Match, Electric City, Sidewalk, King Cockroach, All Love and Silver Temple. A true jazz fusion classic. Now, Scott Henderson, as I mentioned, was a member of the Electric Band for a few months, and he did a small tour which consisted of a number of dates in Germany, a couple dates in the States, and one gig in Spain, and he was gone after that. But for me, Scott Henderson played a big role in helping to create the early sound of the Electric Band. So there you have it, the self-titled album, The Chick Corea Elektric Band, a true jazz fusion classic in my opinion. So as we move along, we come to the next album, which was released in 1987, and it's Light Years. Now, Light Years would feature Frank Gambale and Eric Merenthal. Frank Gambale would replace Scott Henderson after he left, and it's a good album, don't get me wrong, but I feel it's a little bit weak compared to the first album, because the first album made such an impact and was a true classic. Every track was just strong from start to finish. But here, apart from a few standout tracks, a lot of the tracks sound very much like demo tracks, with Carlos Rios. But that doesn't mean this album is terrible. I just think it's a little bit weak. So we've got Chick Corea on keyboards, Dave Wecker on drums, John Patitucci on bass, and now we've got Frank Gambale on guitar and Eric Merenthal on saxophone. Frank Gambale plays really good on this album, but I just feel he's kind of held back a little bit. Even Eric Merenthal as well, because they're unbelievable players, but I just feel they're kind of kept on a leash a little bit, which is a shame really, because there's some really good playing on here, and you just think that there should be a bit more than this. So we've got Light Years, Second Sight, Flamingo, Prism, Time Track, Starlight, Your Eyes, The Dragon, View from the Outside, Smokescreen, Hymn of the Heart, and Kaleidoscope. As I said, it's a good album, but I just feel it's a little bit weak compared to the first album. But there's still some good stuff here. Favourite tracks of mine, I would say, are View from the Outside, Flamingo, which, I absolutely adore that track. It's got some great playing from John Patitucci on fretless bass. And we got the bonus track, Hymn of the Heart, which has got very much of a Asian sort of Arabic feel, with Frank Gambale on acoustic guitar and John Patitucci on fretless bass and 6-string bass. A good album. I know this album won a Grammy, but I don't know really, I just felt it was a little bit weak. A lot of it does sound like Neil Larson, like the style of keyboards, because he had an album out that same year and these two sounded very much alike, but that's not a bad thing. But it's alright, but probably not as good as the first album, but still worth checking out, I think. And I believe this album won a Grammy at one point, but I don't know really. It's not my favourite, but I do listen to it sometimes. Some of these tracks would later go on to become very popular. Tracks like Light Years and Starlight and Time Track, and View from the Outside is an incredible track. Probably the best track of the entire album, and the Electric Band at their most adventurous and ferocious, but as I said, it's a little bit weak compared to the first album, but still worth checking out anyway. There you have it, Chick Corea Elektric Band, Light Years. So we come to the next album, which was released in 1988, and this is an album I consider to be one of the Electric Band's absolute best, Eye of the Beholder. So we've got the classic lineup in place, Chick Corea on keyboards and piano, Dave Wecker on drums, John Patitucci on bass, Frank Gambale on guitar, and Eric Merenthal on saxophone. Excellent album, far more superior and far more stronger than Light Years, and lots of great tracks, all written and composed by Chick Corea. We've got Home Universe, Eternal Child, one of my absolute favourites, a solo piano piece called Forgotten Past, Passage, a great funky track, another one of my favourites, Beauty, a very ambient synth-driven intro called Cascade Part 1, which leads into Cascade Part 2. Very good. Trance Dance, Electric Band at their very, very best. The title track, Eye of the Beholder, great Latin flamingo track with Chick Corea going absolutely nuts on the piano. Ezinda, great track, very underrated, and the fast and very ferocious Amnesia with John Patitucci on acoustic bass. Excellent album, one that I love going back to listening to all the time, and it's very, very slick. A lot more piano work on this album and less of the keyboards, but there are some great keyboard solos, but it's much more semi-acoustic driven with Chick Corea playing lots of piano, which I think I speak for a lot of people, that is where he's at his absolute best. So standout tracks for me, Eternal Child, Passage, Beauty, Trance Dance, Eye of the Beholder and Amnesia, but no weak track in sight, and in my opinion one of the Electric Band's best albums. There you have it, Eye of the Beholder. So we come to the next album, which was released in 1990, and I think I speak for everyone, this album is probably the greatest Chick Corea Elektric Band album of all time. I'm talking about, of course, Inside Out. Now, Inside Out is very much similar to a Return to Forever album, lots of sweets, lots of epic tracks, and these guys just went completely to town on this. They just put everything out there, including the kitchen sink, and it's an absolute classic. And in my opinion, I would probably say this is the Elektric Band's best album. So all tracks written and composed by Chick Corea on keyboards and piano, Dave Weckl on drums, John Patitucci on bass, Eric Marinford on saxophone, and Frank Gambale on guitar. An absolute true classic. So we've got Inside Out, Make-A-Wish Part 1 and 2, Stretch It Part 1 and 2, Kicker, a duo track with Eric Marinford and Chick Corea, Child's Play, and the epic Tale of Daring, Chapter 1, 2, 3 and 4. Whew! Monstrous track. Really got to listen to this all the way through. This is the Elektric Band at their most ferocious and adventurous and their absolute best. And by this point, I would say the Elektric Band were very much at their creative peak. Everybody is on top form. Lots of great playing from Weckl, lots of great playing from Patitucci, Marinford and Gambale. Chick is at his absolute best as always. Doesn't get any better than this. A true Chick Corea Elektric Band masterpiece. Love it. So we come to the next album, which was released in 1991. And this could be probably my favourite Elektric Band album, and that is Beneath the Mask. Now, the Beneath the Mask is much more of a band effort compared to earlier Elektric Band albums. Dave Weckl and John Patitucci would co-compose most of this album with Chick Corea, and this is the Elektric Band at their peak. They were really starting to hit their stride, and they just were a tight unit, in my opinion. So we got Chick Corea on keyboards, Frank Gambale on guitar, Dave Weckl on drums, John Patitucci on bass, and Eric Marinford on sax, who plays near enough exclusively soprano sax on this album, with the exception of one track on alto, and the soprano sax adds a total different dynamic to the sound of the Elektric Band, and it works. So we've got Beneath the Mask, the title track, Little Things About to Count, One of Us is Over 40, the gorgeous A Wave Goodbye, the ferocious Lifescape, the dirty Jam and E Cricket, the ferocious Charged Particles, which I think is probably the best Elektric Band track of the entire album, Free Step, 99 Flavors, and the Lato Flamingo driven track Illusions. Absolute classic album, you know, another great one. I felt around about 1990 to 1991 these guys were just getting stronger and stronger, and they could just do no wrong. They were just knocking out great album after great album, in my opinion. Lots of great playing from just about everyone. So best tracks for me, the title track Beneath the Mask, One of Us is Over 40, A Wave Goodbye, Lifescape, Jam and E Cricket, Charged Particles and Illusions, but no weak track in sight. Love this album, probably my favourite Elektric Band album of all time. Beneath the Mask, there you have it, highly recommended. So this incarnation of the Elektric Band would take a break for quite some time, but Chick Corea would return with a different incarnation of the Elektric Band, and this next album would be released in 1993, and it's a Japanese edition, and it's the Chick Corea Elektric Band 2, Paint the World. So Frank Gambale, Dave Weckl and John Patitucci are gone doing their own things and releasing their own solo albums. Eric Marinford is the only guy left from the classic lineup, so we've got Jimmy O on bass, Gary Novick on drums, and Mike Miller on electric and acoustic guitars. Very funny picture of the guys, and it's a very long album, but it's another favourite of mine, and sadly this was the only album this lineup did, which is a shame really, because these guys were really tight. Maybe not as ferocious as the classic lineup, but these guys really do pack a punch, and it's a lot more laid back compared to their predecessors' albums that they did before them, but it's still worth checking out. So we've got Paint the World, Blue Miles, Tone Poem, CTA, Silhouette, Space, The Ant and the Elephant, Tumber Island, Ritual, Ished, Spanish Sketch, which is very much close to the style of the classic Return to Forever, the bonus track, Final Frontier, and Reprise. Excellent album, in my opinion. I would probably say the star of this album, in terms of top playing, apart from Chick Corea himself, is probably Eric Merenfall. He's switching back and forth between alto and soprano sax, and he just sounds absolutely amazing. And there's a good reason why he's been the most consistent saxophone player of all of the Electric Band incarnations. Great playing from Jimmy Earl, great drumming from Gary Novak. Mike Miller, he's a good guitar player, maybe not as strong as Scott Henderson or Frank Gambale, but he's no slouch. None of these guys are, but when you've got to follow the guys who came before you, it's no easy task, but these guys do an excellent job, in my opinion. So, standout tracks for me, Paint the World, Tone Poem, Space, The Ant and the Elephants, Spanish Sketch, and the very rocky Final Frontier. Excellent album, another one I always go back to listening to. Paint the World, love it. So, that would be it for a while. All the guys would go off and do their own thing, and they would reunite in 2004, which would be the next album that came out. And this is another Japanese edition that I got, and that is To the Stars. So this is very much a concept album, and it's very, very long, and it's very, very ferocious. So we've got everybody back: Chick Corea on keyboards and piano, Frank Gambale on guitar, Eric Merenfall on saxophone, John Patitucci on bass, and Dave Weckl on drums, with some guest appearances from Pernell Sauterino on percussion, Gal Moran on vocals, and Steve Wilson on sax. Great album, in my opinion. If you take away the interludes, which are like ports 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, we could probably be looking at an album equally as good as Inside Out. That's not saying that this album isn't good, because it is, but I just feel the interlude port view tracks I could do without, but still a great album. All compositions written and composed by Chick Corea. We've got the Wild Check Blast, Mistress Luck, A Portrait, Mistress Luck, The Party, which is very much like a Latin sort of flamingo number. Think of Carlos Santana sort of style. Johnny's Landing, the acoustic Alan Corday, so think of the acoustic band if they added acoustic guitar and soprano sax. Hound of Heaven, The Long Passage, Jocelyn the Commander, Captain Jocelyn, a tribute by his crew, and the last track, which is a solo piece called Captain Jocelyn the Pianist. Wild, ferocious, epic album. So standout tracks for me: Check Blast, Mistress Luck, A Portrait, Mistress Luck, The Party, Alan Corday, and Johnny's Landing. Love this album. And you've got a bonus disc as well, which has got CTA, Got a Match, Eternal Child, and Blue Miles. And they're pretty much just modern reworkings of the Electric Band classics, but still worth checking out. I had a lot of trouble getting this album because this one was very, very hard to find. I know you can still buy the normal edition of To the Stars, but if you can find a copy of the Japanese edition with the bonus disc, it's definitely worth buying. Might be a little bit expensive, but it's definitely money well spent. So highly recommend you check this out. But if you can't find it, then still go out and buy the normal one, because they're both good, in my opinion. So there you have it. Chick Corea Electric Band To the Stars, Japanese edition. So, which Electric Band album do I think is the best? I love Beneath the Mask, but I'm going with the ultimate one, in my opinion, Inside Out. Electric Band at their most epic, very much in the style of RTF, and this is the classic lineup at the top of their game. Doesn't get any better than this. So if I was ever to recommend to anyone any Electric Band albums, definitely recommend this one and the first album, and probably some of the later ones, but this catalogue of albums definitely worth checking, and this one highly recommended to everyone. Chick Corea Electric Band Inside Out, the Chick Corea Electric Band's greatest album, in my opinion. So there you have it, guys. That's all 7 studio recordings of the Chick Corea Electric Band, and in my opinion, one of the greatest jazz fusion bands of all time. So, you know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. I want to know, what's your favourite Electric Band album? Is it Inside Out? Is it Paints the World? Is it Beneath the Mask? Or is it the first album? So until next time, take care everybody and stay safe, and once again, thanks for listening.